Welcome to the Menopause and Cancer podcast, where we speak with cancer patient survivors and incredible experts in their fields to help us find solutions to our symptoms and ideas to improve our health. My name is Danny Binnington, and I'm delighted to talk about your and my cholesterol levels today. I know it's not a very sexy subject, but I'm horrified and frustrated that so many of us are having high cholesterol levels, and no one warned us that this might be a side effect of early menopause. Many of you say, I'm now on aromatase inhibitors, and within a few months, my cholesterol levels have shot up. Many of you say, no one told me this might happen. And many say, oh my gosh, me too, me too, me too. I'm going to go into more details in a minute. Barbie Boule is an incredible dietitian. She has joined me on the podcast before. She's a longevity dietitian expert, and we talked about brain health and Alzheimer prevention before, and she's just amazing at giving us the facts, but also at telling us what we can do. When is medication necessary? How much is in our agency? Can we reduce our cholesterol levels with diet alone? Let's talk about it, because we all have to do one thing after listening to this podcast episode, and that is to have our cholesterol levels checked. So let's welcome Barbie in. This isn't a long episode, but a really important one, and one I feel we should all take action on. Thank you so much, Barbie, for joining us again. I think this is episode 3 with you on the podcast. You're amazing. Thank you for your time. How are you?
Oh, thank you, Danny. Thank you for inviting me. I'm doing really well. Thank you. And I hope you are too.
Thank you so much. Just last week, I was rereading an article we made out of the brain health episode we recorded quite a while ago with Dr. Lindsay Thomas. And there were so many amazing nuggets about brain fog and brain health in there from you. And it was such an empowering conversation I'm really excited to talk about cholesterol with you. Not a very glamorous topic, right, Barbie? But as a longevity specialist.
Yes, it's not sexy, but it's really important. It really is. It deserves a lot more attention than it gets. And hopefully today we will clear up some of the confusion, because if you are someone who spends any time on social media and follows any nutrition accounts, you might be confused about cholesterol and whether or not it matters and what the best way to take care of it is if it's elevated. So let's talk about it.
Yeah. And please do bust some myths. So if you have lots of things to add that weren't on my radar, just throw them all my way. Yeah. I'm really horrified, Barbie, that so many of us in our cancer and menopause community are getting high cholesterol results from their blood tests. Many people say they're on aromatase inhibitors or tamoxifen, long-term medication. Other people say I was thrown into early menopause, and I'd like to read just a few comments to you so that everyone at home really knows what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
One person said, has anyone else experienced raised cholesterol levels? I'm on Zodalex. This is one of those aromatase inhibitor drugs. And a flurry of messages came in. A person saying, my recent blood tests show cholesterol increasing, and I understand this could potentially be linked to medication or early menopause. How do I know what's what? Other people say, I have only been on this medication for 3 months and mine has already shot up. Another person saying, mine went up on Zodalex and has come down again since I came off it. Some people saying, it's disheartening. No one warned me that my cholesterol levels could go up, and what am I about to do about it now? And the messages just came in and came in. So I think there is a lack of awareness this can happen. And I want to talk to you a little bit about why this can happen from an early menopause perspective. Dr. Alison Macbeth has explained that high cholesterol is a side effect of aromatase inhibitors, but it seems that letrozole is the worst offender. So that is the feedback from the menopause specialist. What's menopause got to do with high cholesterol?
Yeah, so unfortunately, menopause or the menopause transition, the perimenopause period, and then certainly if you jump straight into menopause, it changes our metabolic health, the way we metabolize carbohydrates and lipids. So not only our lipids, so that would be our LDL cholesterol, HDL cholesterol, and triglycerides, but also our HbA1c or our fasting glucose. All of that can get wonky with perimenopause and menopause. for lots of reasons. Again, this change in the way that we metabolize things, but also the accumulation of visceral fat can change, can further disrupt the metabolism of our lipids and glucose. So it really is a time, at whatever point in your life that you experience menopause, it really is a time to start paying extra close attention to your metabolic health. Make sure you are being a really good patient. You're visiting your provider at least once a year and having all these labs run so that you're catching it early, so that it can be treated either with nutrition and lifestyle, hopefully, or in the case that you may need medication if nutrition and lifestyle are not effective enough. But yeah, unfortunately, menopause just shifts our metabolism in a way that increases our vulnerability to type 2 diabetes and heart disease through elevated LDL cholesterol and wonky lipids.
It seems ludicrous, right, that we might put people into early menopause for their cancer treatment. We know cholesterol levels can rise because of it, and we don't make people aware to look out for it, or we give people medication. And of course, this is super important medication, which we really want to encourage people to take because it's so important for our overall survival rates. And then we don't help people. How do we survive on it? And it aggravates me really that because it's not difficult, right? A blood test for cholesterol is hardly costing anyone a lot of money.
It shouldn't. I mean, it definitely shouldn't. And with any medication, with any pharmaceuticals, there's always going to be a risk-benefit analysis because anything that has an effect can also has the potential for side effects. And so we always just have to weigh how much are we benefiting from the medication versus, what side effects might we incur. And certainly with, as you mentioned, aromatase inhibitors, elevated LDL. I want to be very clear that when we're talking about high cholesterol, we're talking about elevated LDL cholesterol. That's the cholesterol that's considered, quote, bad, or the stuff that is very atherogenic. Another way to measure that more accurately these days is ApoB or apolipoprotein B, but most of our providers are still using LDL, which is fine. And we don't want it over 100 milligrams per deciliter. If we are low risk for cardiovascular disease, if we have risk factors, we want it around 70 milligrams per deciliter. And if we've had a cardiovascular event, heart attack, stroke, we really want it around 55 milligrams per deciliter.
Before we continue with today's episode, I want to give a big thanks to our trusted sponsor, the Better Menopause. I know there are some supplements that aren't suitable for people with a history of cancer, or if you're in specific cancer treatments at the moment, and it can really make us feel like we have even fewer options, like limiting our options. And so I really I'm grateful that I can talk to you about the Better Gut, which is a fantastic product by our fabulous supporters, the Better Menopause. Most women don't realize that gut health and menopause symptoms are so interlinked, and keeping your gut happy and healthy is a foundation for overall health through all stages of life. So the Better Gut is actually not a multivitamin, it's a probiotic, it's a daily capsule, and it's packed with a unique science-backed probiotic blend designed to survive stomach acid and actually reach your gut alive. It can also help you with symptoms like bloating, hot flushes, and anxiety. It's a game changer for lots of women in our community. I'm going to link to it in the show notes. And I want to say a huge, huge thank you to the Better Menopause for sponsoring this episode, for supporting our community so that I can get these great conversations out to all of you at home. So there's the LDL and there's the HDL, and maybe everyone at home knows that, but isn't there a way that people say you combine them all and then it's the average result of the two? Talk to me about that, because there's so many different ways of measuring, of different opinions.
Yeah, so it was once believed that because HDL is thought of as the protective lipid, that if your HDL was nice and high, say between 60 and 80, it didn't matter so much if your LDL was marginally high, because the HDL would sort of, quote, balance it out. It's more complicated than that. But now we know that elevated LDL is atherogenic, even in the presence of nice HDL. So that should not be a consideration anymore. We shouldn't really be looking at total cholesterol. We shouldn't be looking at HDL to LDL ratios. We should really be looking at LDL. And if it's above 100 milligrams per deciliter, we do need to give it attention.
Right. Okay. You've made that very clear. Why are there so many confusing messages on social media about cholesterol? And I sometimes hear even that people say cholesterol isn't even something to worry about. What's going on
Yeah.
there?
Well, those people, pardon me, but just don't know what they're talking about, or they do, and they're being intentionally manipulative to sell a product. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of promotion of the carnivore diet and supplements to go along with the carnivore diet, high saturated fat, lots of meat, lots of butter. And that is just something that, quite frankly, needs to go away. We need to ignore it. It's really, really important to keep saturated fat under 7% of total calories. That's one of our best strategies for managing LDL cholesterol. In addition to that, adding a really good amount of fiber, 30 or more grams a day, or up to your tolerance. Why is there so much confusion? There are people who just like attention and like to be controversial and contrary, and they're getting a lot of attention for it. It's a fad. It will subside, but right now we really are in the thick of what are called cholesterol deniers.
Yeah.
People who really simply say it doesn't matter, or it's even good to have high cholesterol because it protects your brain. I mean, cholesterol is a part of brain structure, but your brain makes all the cholesterol it needs. You don't need to consume cholesterol to benefit your brain. In fact, you don't want to consume a lot of it, and you don't want to consume a lot of saturated fat. So to answer your question, there are lots of potential reasons why people would be intentionally muddying the waters around cholesterol, but the research is very, very clear. Elevated LDL cholesterol is atherogenic, even at 100 milligrams per deciliter, which is why it'll probably come down in the next 5-10 years. As soon as our doctors' offices catch up with research, that's probably when we'll see that. But it's definitely something we want to take seriously. There are people who believe we could eradicate 80 to 90% of heart disease if we would just get on top of LDL cholesterol.
Wow. Okay. So this is so important for us to have a look at, right? Because I speak to so many people. Once you've been in the cancer treatment sort of system, it's very difficult then to reconnect back to your general practitioner and look at your overall health again, because we've been so laser focused and single focused on treating a really life-threatening disease. And then when that treatment is over, we have to reignite that. Okay, I'm now going to look at my cholesterol or my other sort of normal blood tests again. And so there is a bit of a disconnect, and this is a really important conversation to pick up, because it's something we can work on. A message that often comes up from women saying, my cholesterol is high, my doctor wants to prescribe statins if my next blood tests are high again, but I don't want to take them because I've had so much medication. I know you're not a general practitioner, but can you still talk us through statins a little bit and what they would do?
Yeah. So, excuse me. Statins are extremely effective at lowering LDL cholesterol. So that, and they've been around for a long time. They're very well researched. So they are considered the frontline treatment for elevated LDL cholesterol. There are other options. There's bempedoic acid, there are PCSK9 inhibitors, and there are more on the way. About 5% of people do experience muscle aches, muscle weakness. The degree to which people experience that side effect is kind of overblown. It really is more like kind of around 5%, but certainly if that's you would want something alternative to statins. It's completely understandable that someone wouldn't want to layer on yet another medication. That said, and you can go all in with nutrition and lifestyle. But if those things are not having the impact on your LDL cholesterol that you want or need them to, given your other risk factors, this is important. And, it's definitely just something to discuss with your oncologist, your GP, whoever else might be on your team, to get a nice, good consensus that makes you feel comfortable. But addressing that LDL cholesterol is important. That said, I don't want to scare anyone. I know that everybody in this audience has already been through quite a lot. I don't want to make it sound like you're going to have a heart attack or stroke tomorrow if you have elevated LDL cholesterol. I just do really want to impress that, this is something we don't want to ignore. And so get proactive, have the conversations you need to have to make yourself comfortable and do what you need to do.
And I want to go all in, when I talk to you and when I listen and watch your brilliant sort of educational Instagram videos, I always think I'm going to go all in. I'm going to do this. And then I also know that so many people really struggle with the onset of menopause after cancer. Some of the long-term medication make people feel I can't lose weight. So they're putting on weight, which also has an effect on their metabolic health. People feel exhausted, tired. You are an expert because you've made a really difficult personal decision with panic and anxiety. You know what it's like to also have that mental health capacity almost, isn't it, where you don't function in the best of your ability. And in those situations, going all in is really lovely and a well-meaning advice, but it can be impossible, isn't it? Because to go all in, and I want to know from you, what is that all in? We probably have to change some of our strategies, right?
Yeah. And I mean, listen, I completely understand it is, post cancer treatment and then to pile menopause on top of that, my goodness, the energy is probably non-existent, for a lot of the time. And so to make sure you're sleeping well, make sure you're exercising, make sure you're cooking nutrient dense, really anti-inflammatory meals, and you're managing your stress. It's overwhelming. So little mini habits, nail one thing at a time until you've kind of rolled through this sort of spectrum of things that are going to be really excellent for your metabolic health overall and your cholesterol in particular. But to point out from a dietary perspective, from a nutrition perspective, the two things that are the most important for keeping LDL cholesterol in check are keeping saturated fat, sources of saturated fat, under 7% of your total calories. So this is going to be animal products, including dairy, egg yolks, and then also tropical oils. So coconut oil and then palm oil is often overlooked, but palm oil is found in a lot of ultra processed foods because it is shelf stable and cheap. So, always be looking at the saturated fat on labels. And then secondly, getting enough fiber. And depending upon the treatment someone may have, their digestive system might not be completely optimal right now. So start really slow. But ideally, we're building up to around 30 grams a day. Particularly soluble fiber helps draw LDL cholesterol out of the body. And so it helps keep it in check. So more fiber, less saturated fat are going to be the two most important things. Hopefully that won't be too terribly overwhelming, but it's a great place to start.
Talk to me about some sources of soluble fiber. And tonight, can I talk you through dinner just to make it really practical? I've got some salmon in the oven. I've made some little roasted potatoes for the children. They like it. I've cooked some quinoa for myself because it's September and I'm getting back into, cooking regularly. I've got a little bit of green salad and I've grated some carrot in it. But I'm now thinking, and I've got some broccoli. But I'm now thinking, I have no idea what the fiber content is because you know what? For such a long time, everyone keeps banging on about protein. If you're in perimenopause or menopause, you've got to eat lots of protein. And if we just listen to all the people to talk about just protein, no one's going to have enough fiber. So dinner tonight on my plate, I've got salmon, I've got broccoli, a little bit of potato, quinoa. Is there enough fiber on my plate?
And the salad, very likely so. That sounds like, depending upon serving sizes, that sounds like probably around 10 grams to me. And if you could have also gotten maybe 10 grams at lunch and 10 grams with a morning meal, then you're hitting about 30 grams a day. So that sounds excellent. Okay. And you're also getting green from your broccoli, maybe a little bit in your salad as well. The darker the green, the better. And then you're also getting some color with the carrot, and the white of a potato is also considered a color. And then any other veggies that you're having in your salad. But we want leafy greens every day and a rainbow throughout the week as often as possible, in addition to our low saturated fat and high fiber, because the phytonutrients in the pigments of fruits and vegetables are really beneficial, anti-inflammatory, anti-carcinogenic.
So apart from my dinner plate, talk me through some really lovely ingredients that we could have at lunch and dinner where you think, okay, they're great fiber. So is it all my vegetables, basically? Vegetables or?
Yes, all plants, their cellular structure is fiber. So that what gives them their shape. So any plant foods are going to contain fiber, any whole plant foods, I should say. When we refine them, we refine out a lot of the fiber. This is why whole grains are more beneficial than refined grains. Beans are an excellent source of both fiber and protein. So I say beans as often as possible. The Mind diet recommends like 3 to 4 servings of beans a week. I think as often as you can get beans in, the better. Go ahead.
No, you know what? I remember our conversation so much when you spoke about the Mind diet and Alzheimer and dementia prevention. I make a 3-bean salad and I probably have that over 3 days. And I use 3 tins of beans and I put in tomatoes and I use different beans, kidney beans and butter beans and maybe aduki beans, like 3 different ones, always 3. My golden rule 3, and I add some chopped cucumber and some spring onion with lots of lovely dressing with apple cider vinegar in a Tupperware, and it comes out at least 3 times a week. And by the end of the week, I feel so chuffed with myself, Barbie. I'm always like, I don't even want to share it anymore with other people because I'm just... So I'm glad that they feature in my fiber sort of toolbox as well.
Yes, absolutely. And nuts are another great source of fiber. Depending upon where you are with things, just being mindful that nuts are very calorically dense. So we're going to get a lot of calories in a very small volume. But yeah, any plants, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, lentils, whole grains. This is where we want to be getting a lot of our fiber.
Okay. So a lot of people might think, actually, I'm eating pretty well. I'm eating maybe not the best diet, but I'm eating an okay diet and my cholesterol has still shot up. Is it the medication I'm on? Sometimes people will say, well, I don't want to stop this medication. It's part of my cancer treatment. I'm not going to stop it for the cholesterol. Do you think like a fiber supplement might be a helpful thing? When I go on holiday, I love pharmacies and I've recently been to Austria and there's lovely fiber supplements. Are they a good idea to introduce?
Yeah, they absolutely can be. I really like psyllium husk, a fiber supplement that's primarily psyllium, Psyllium, just in case. And yeah, I think fiber supplements can absolutely come in handy if you're not getting enough from your diet, or if you just know you could benefit from a little extra fiber.
Okay, so that's really helpful. And then the other thing that often comes up is, I think it's a herbal medication called berberine. And often people compare it to statins. It's a food supplement. What's the deal with berberine? What do we know about it?
Yeah, so berberine and red yeast rice are often used as a substitute for statins if people don't want to take statins. Sometimes doctors will even recommend them. The thing about supplements, they both have actually been shown to reduce LDL cholesterol. The degree to which is kind of all over the place. The thing about supplements and herbal preparations is they're not as well studied. They're not standardized. We're never quite sure what we're buying, even if we're buying from a very reputable manufacturer. And something as serious as elevated LDL cholesterol, I personally wouldn't want to wing it with an herbal supplement. If you are someone who is taking these supplements and you are getting your LDL tested regularly and it is coming down, that's wonderful. Just really stay on top of it. But do know we don't have a lot of research primarily about, like, for example, we know that statins reduce the risk of events, cardiovascular events, heart attack and stroke. We do not have that data on herbal preparations. So It may lower LDL, but does it prevent events? We don't know. So just being sure that you're going in informed, and that just lowering the LDL may not be enough to get you in the safety zone. Again, I personally would not want to take a chance with something like that, but I completely also understand, you know, a lot of people are very resistant to pharmacotherapy, and I get that.
That's a really good explanation. Imagine I've gone all in and I'm not on any medication like the aromatase inhibitors, because that is so specific. People really need to see their oncologist and their general practitioner. But we're in early menopause, and I have had higher cholesterol levels, and I am all in, and I've done this really well, and I've had my fibre intake over a few weeks. From your practice with working with people as a dietitian, how amazing are your results, or how level-headed are those results, or how frustrating are the results? Like, how much can I really do if I go all in?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's a really frustrating answer. It completely depends on the individual, because usually, often, I should say, with lipids, we are bringing our genes to the table. And there are going to be people who just don't respond as well to nutrition and lifestyle interventions for a variety of reasons. Either they hyperabsorb cholesterol from food, or their livers overproduce it, or they have familial hypercholesterolemia, or this is just something that their bodies are going to do post-menopause. So it's been said that in someone with no kind of wonky genes in the mix, nutrition and lifestyle interventions can reduce LDL cholesterol by about 20 to 30%. That's usually the range. But is that enough to get you under 100 milligrams per deciliter, or under 70 if you're someone with additional risk factors, or to probably not to 55 if you've had an event? So it depends. And it's going to be up to you to stay on top of your lipids at least annually, to make sure that whatever you're doing is having an effect, a positive effect. And if not, then it's time to discuss other options with your doctor.
Thank you, because it's a very honest answer. And I would have loved for you to say, absolutely, we can do X, Y, and Z. But we need to hear the honest answer, because so that we can also not think the responsibility is all ours, because I don't want people to walk away from this conversation thinking, well, if I did all of this and then my cholesterol levels are still up, that's really frustrating, isn't it? But everything you're suggesting has so many other benefits for our overall and long-term health anyway. So even if we might need to have other help, might that be pharmaceutical or something else, we're doing a great job at trying, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, eating the way that I described, low saturated fat, high fiber, is also protective against type 2 diabetes. It's good for your brain. It's good for your heart. It's good for your overall energy. Just every system in your body is going to benefit from that. So even if it doesn't get your LDL cholesterol where it needs to be, you're still getting a really big ball of benefits from eating that way. So, and yeah, in various areas, each of us has something where we could probably benefit from a little extra help in one way or another. And just, I encourage people to be proactive about that, because, you know, you deserve to feel your best and to genuinely be your best.
Thank you so much. We're going to leave it there, because I think we have covered everything, and I wanted to make this really short and a standalone episode so people can take action. I know what action I have to take, Barbie. About 7 months ago, I went to a big sort of NHS here in the UK health check. It's called My Future Health. And I think they're like testing the whole of the nation for certain things. And my cholesterol levels came back a little bit on the high. And I didn't do anything about it. I should have really gone to my general practitioner, but I didn't do anything about it because I was frustrated. I thought, oh, not another thing. Right. I think I'm eating really healthily. And nowadays, I didn't really know what the results said. Was it the LDL? Was it the HDL? It wasn't very clear. So I just sort of put it back in the envelope and shoved it back into a cupboard. And now I know I need to do something about it because you were so clear in your messaging, Barbie. And I thank you for that. So I know I'm going to take action after speaking to you. And I hope everyone at home will do the same. And I hope everyone walks away with really good results. And if you're not, then knowledge is power, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you,
I
Danny.
can't wait to air this episode and many more with you because you are such a fountain of wealth. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody who's listening.
I hope this was an okay episode for you. And if cholesterol wasn't on your radar before, then please don't be frustrated because you might be thinking, oh gosh, now what? Cancer is just a gift that keeps on giving. I didn't think cholesterol levels could be a thing. But you know, when early menopause comes along as a result of your cancer treatment, or when your treatment options differ to those of a healthy perimenopausal, menopausal women, then many things can be affected in a negative way, from our bones to our cholesterol levels. And it's really important we know about it. And it drives me mad that no one warns us about it, because there are things we can do. For a starter, I need to go back and have my cholesterol levels checked. And you may be in a similar situation. Let's all do that, because knowledge is power. And we do need to look after how we're going to live today and over the next few months and years. It's really, really important. If you're one of the many hundred people in our Facebook community who have chatted about cholesterol levels and who were outraged at your high cholesterol levels, I really hope this conversation was helpful. I have got many other great conversations coming up, and I'm excited to share my guests with you soon. But for now, I'm going to let you digest this and book an appointment with your doctor. I know I need to do the same. And I'm also going to share my recipe for the 3-bean salad on Instagram, because it's a lovely recipe. It's so easy. It's so inexpensive. And I feel very proud when I make it every single week. And I'm always thinking, oh, Barbie would probably give me some brownie points for this one. And she does. Anyway, I love you and leave you. And I'll chat to you next week.